growing up, I was always such a rebel. Like, you can probably even tell by the way I look. I was like, don't tell me how to look. Don't tell me what to do. Like, if you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to do it. Even to the point of, don't tell me what I can't talk about. And so I always liked talking about sex and talking about the things that are taboo, the things that we're not supposed to talk about, because it's fun. So I'm really, really excited to be sharing this today and to now get to hold the space as a sex coach and as a sex educator for other people to talk about the thing that we're not supposed to talk about, right? And give you that permission and give you that space that, like, this is cool, this is a safe place. This is how we were all brought onto the planet also, by the way, right? Like, through sex. So how did it get so misconstrued somewhere that it's bad to talk about or that we shouldn't be talking about it? Like, this is how we came to be more than just spirit floating around in consciousness. Like, that's pretty cool, you guys. So growing up, I have to share with you a bit about my own sexual journey and what led me to doing this work and why I'm so passionate about it. I was always interested in sex. From like the time I was 4, I started masturbating. I was like, this feels good. Like, this is awesome. I'd sneak into my brother's room and steal his porn. And like, before we had internet, like I was still from the days even before we had dial-up. And then when I realized that you could get free porn on the internet, I was like, this is the best thing ever. And I'll never forget my mom finding the porn sites from on the internet, like on the history on the internet, and giving my brother shit for it. And he's like, that was Kat, that wasn't me. And my mom didn't believe, like, no, like, it wasn't Kat, it was you. And I'm like, shit, it was me. Like, so from this young age, I just had this desire, right? I think it's within us, that sexual desire, that desire for pleasure, that desire to lean towards what feels good in life and what feels good in our bodies. And that is so natural to us. And then we go out into the world and that is pushed down. And we're taught that it's not okay and that you shouldn't follow your desire and you shouldn't follow what feels good to you. You should follow what other people are telling you to do. So this fascination with sex, this fascination with pleasure, watching a lot of porn, and then going into my teenage years and into my adult years and entering into sexual relationships with other people, I quickly started to realize that real life sex is not what you watch in porn at all. And, you know, like, there's weird sounds, there's fluids, there's all this stuff going on that you're like, whoa, why don't they show this in, like, in the movies? And we're left to navigate our own sexuality and to try and figure out how to do it with another person who's got their own thing going on and their own interpretation of sex, with no instruction manual, with no guidance, with no communication, with no language to communicate these things. And so what happened to me is I ended up in these, it was kind of a reoccurring problem within my relationships of not having that communication and of almost expecting the men I was with to just understand my body and understand what felt good to me and what turned me on when I didn't even know what that was. It was like I didn't even have the languaging within myself to turn it into words to then communicate it to somebody else. So it kept coming up, this problem in my relationships of the men I was with asking me, like, what do you like? How do I please you? How do I bring you to orgasm? How do I turn you on? And I'm like a deer in headlights. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, and I didn't know because I wasn't acquainted. I didn't have a friendship with my own sexual identity. And there was a shifting point, and it was a specific relationship I was in, and I got dumped. And it's funny because when I tell people that, they're like, you got dumped? I'm like, yeah, pretty girls get dumped too, you guys. Like, attractive people aren't perfect. And he dumped me, and I was so, during the breakup conversation, everything else in the relationship was great, and he was communicating to me in that conversation, the sex isn't fulfilling to me. I'm not getting what I need. I'm not getting what I want. I'm not getting what I need. And in that moment, I internalized that as something is wrong with me. Something is innately wrong with me. I'm not good enough. And I think we all have those experiences at certain times in our life of interpreting things as, I'm not good enough. But it was a beautiful blessing in disguise because I interpreted that situation in such a way, it sent me on a seeking journey to figure it out. Like, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure out who I am sexually, because where is the language for this? Where is that tool? Where is that manual that we can communicate with our partners? Because really what I found that it came down to is we were just lost in communication. We were on two totally different playing fields. And so this seeking journey sent me initially to exploring Tantra, which is like what I call like spiritual sex. And I traveled around. I traveled to Thailand. I went to a school there. I'm head first dove into it, to studying this, to practicing it, to learning it. But even within that community, I still felt like I didn't fit in, or I still felt like this isn't the only answer. I'm like, where's the other stuff? Like, where's the raunchy stuff? Like, that's amazing. Sex can be very spiritual, and I believe that it is meant to be. But there's also this other side of it, right? Of like, I'm like, I want you to pull my hair and spank me. Like, I don't want to just make love all the time. So I was like, where's the, what can we have that encompasses everything, right? And really learn what we like, and that it's okay to like what we like, and it's okay for our partner to like what they like, and to actually have the tools to communicate it and play and learn and really make bust off the ceiling to pleasure. So this led me to my now teacher and mentor. Her name is Jaya, and she's been a somatic sexologist for over 20 years, and I've had the privilege of training under her and becoming one of her certified coaches. And she teaches the 5 erotic blueprints. And when I found this teaching, when I found her as my mentor, I felt like it was the manual that I had been asking God for, that said, it's all okay. All of it's okay. And there's a way that we can play in all these different realms. So that is what I want to share with you today, is the 5 erotic blueprints. And so what those are is essentially, and if you were at my talk yesterday, I talk a lot about, from my own personal journey, about our soul's blueprint, right? And about tapping into our own individual soul blueprint. And so this body of work so beautifully it just attaches right to that, of we all have a different erotic wiring. We are all wired to give and receive pleasure in a different way. So when we're in the bedroom with somebody who is not wired the same as us, and we don't know how to bridge that gap, it's not that one person isn't enough. It's not that one person is right and one person is wrong. It's that there just needs to be a language to bridge that gap. And to start with that, I mean, this is great with your partner. This is also great as a single. I embarked on this journey as a single by myself. I am still single. So it's like you can really learn your own sexual identity. And then when you enter into a relationship, have that foundation to stand on. Have that languaging to say, this is what I like. Touch me like this. Play with me like that. Tease me in this way. and teach somebody else how to do that. But first, we must know ourselves. We must know our own sexual identity. But again, most of us didn't have the space created where that was okay. So without further ado, I want to go into the 5 erotic blueprints. And this is a very, what's that? Yes, woo! Yeah, because you're probably wondering, like, what am I? How am I wired? Like, you guys, when I started learning this, I was like, what? I finally was like, I'm not broken. Okay, so this is a great place if you have a notebook that I would recommend taking notes, because knowing this information will change your life. And if you don't, please come see me after. I'll give you a card. You can contact me. I do private one-on-one coaching with singles and couples in this world. And I also run workshops on it. So if you don't have the notes, that's all cool. I'll just give you a second to do that before we go. So as I'm sharing these with you guys, I'm going to share with you the erotic blueprint type. I'm going to share with you a couple of traits within that type so you can start to think about yourself, start to think about your own body and maybe your past relationships or even how you self-pleasure, and notice where you see yourself within this. And then I'm also going to share a couple shadow qualities of the blueprint. So the shadow quality is like the negative side of it, or the thing that might come up as a challenge for you in your sexual relationship. So listen for the traits or the shadows that you're like, ooh, that's me. That's definitely me. Because that is probably your blueprint. So the first one is energetic. I am a huge energetic. And this is what was screwing up my relationships, is I'm a feeler. I couldn't communicate with words. I could only communicate with my feelings and my inner world. So that is one of the traits of an energetic blueprint. Sensitive, highly sensitive, physically, emotionally, energetically. So what this means is you can pick up on your partner's energy without even knowing it. You might be taking on some of their stuff as you're having sex and not even knowing it. You might be more in tune with their body than you are with your own, because the physical isn't as prominent as the energetic. Energetics are turned on by tease and anticipation. So without even touching, can create turn on from across the room, can create turn on from eye contact, from energy. The body of an energetic is turned on by very light, hovering touch, barely touching the skin. Some people so sensitive, maybe not touching the skin at all. If there's anybody who's into Reiki, it's the same kind of thing. It's the same thing. It's all energy. So this is just more of the sexual energy side of it. The shadow qualities of an energetic can short circuit. So what do I mean by short circuit? If you go for the body too quickly, if you go for the genitals too quickly, without enough tease and anticipation and build up, short circuit, turn on, off, gone. There has to be a build up. There has to be this dance of energy leading into intercourse. Energetics can lack boundaries. So they have overridden their own sexual boundaries over and over again so many times that there can be trauma, or there can just be this feeling of like, don't touch me. Because you don't have that clear container of what is okay and what is not okay. It's like you're like a sexual empath if you're an energetic. You feel things, you feel it all. So that's the negative side of it as well. It can help you be very in tune with your partner, but it can also really kind of feel a little like chaotic and haywire-y. So that's the first blueprint. I'm going to go through them all, and then we're opening it up to a Q&A. So if you have any questions, I encourage you to like write them down or note them now, because if you have a question on a specific blueprint, I can go more into that after, and I would love to help you more like specifically nail your own. The second one is the sensual. So a couple traits with the sensual. They're turned on by the senses, sight, sound, smells. They're enamored with beauty. They're the people that go, when they're eating. The people that notice the hills and the sky when they walk out of their room this morning. So these, notice if you are this person, if you see yourself doing these things, it might be great insight into your blueprint. The touch that turns on a sensual the most is deep contouring touch. So it's almost like, think of if you're getting a massage and like that digging into the muscle and really rubbing the skin and touching the skin. A couple shadow qualities of the sensual can very easily be stuck in your head. Can't drop into the body to feel pleasure and experience pleasure because you're so in your head. Like, oh my God, am I gonna come? Am I ever gonna come? I think the orgasm's close. Oh, no, it's gone. Like, right? That whole mental dialogue that like pulls you out of the experience. Yep, it's okay. We've all been in that situation. Easily distracted. So it's like there can be a laundry basket, like, oh my God, I forgot to fold the laundry, I forgot to fold the laundry, I forgot to fold the laundry. And your partner's like, is it good? Are you feeling really good? And you're like, oh my God, there's a dish in the sink. I'm never gonna orgasm. So the orgasm can seem really elusive. It can seem like this thing out there that you're never gonna get because there's so many hurdles and obstacles to overcome in order to reach your orgasm. I have a feeling we might have some sensuals in the room based on the laughter. Okay, the third blueprint, you guys, I want to go in a specific order here, is the sexual. So this is our whole culture. This is our cultural norm. This is what we see in a lot of mainstream pornography. It's intercourse, penis in vagina, sex. It's very genital focused. It's always with the goal of orgasm. It's like we're not having sex unless we finish and complete with an orgasm. It's a very kind of narrow framework for what sex can be. A great thing about sexuals is there's not a lot of shame. Sexuals are those people that can just like walk around in the nude and like totally fine with it, you know? Just comfortable. We have some sexuals in the room, yay! Some shadow qualities of the sexual is that it can become too end goal oriented. It can become too much of that energy of, okay, let's get there, let's go. Intercourse, orgasm, yeah, pound it. And so you can see even that, how contrasting that is from a sensual, right? So you can see where we can start to get lost in translation with our partners. Sexuals can be very self-focused, which is a shadow quality. It can be me, 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 me. Me and my genitals. You know, it's like, oh yeah, there's another person in the room with you. Sexuals can be the most resistant to change. So they're very stuck in one pathway. This is sex. This is it. This is how we do it. They don't understand the benefit of sensual, the benefit of energy work. So these are some shadow qualities of the sexual. The fourth blueprint is kinky. Yeah. Yeah, that one's in there, don't worry. So there's two types of kinky. There's sensation-based kink, which is the actual sensation of items on your skin. So that this can be scratching, this can be slapping, this can be hair pulling. The sensation of rope around your wrists. So that's one form of kink. And the second form of kink is psychological. So playing with dominant and submissive roles, playing games, playing with the mind, creating fantasy. So some people will have more sensation-based, they'll be more heavy in the sensation-based, or they'll be more heavy in the psychological-based, or maybe equally both. Some people will have one and not the other so much. So maybe just notice what comes up for you as we talk about this. The overall traits of the kinky blueprint: loves the taboo. Ooh, the thing we're not supposed to do, let's do that. Fetishes. Very creative. Always wanting to play and adventure and move into new territory. They can be highly easy to turn on if the right buttons are pushed. If you know the code, you can turn on a kinky very quickly, but you need to know their code. You need to know their access points, what turns them on. The shadow sides of kinky, there can be a lot of shame. Again, because there's never really been a safe container to express these things, to talk about these things. So a lot of people might have kinky within them, but not even know it's in there because there's never been the space held to let it come out and play. Kinkies may hide their desires. Again, because of that shame, because of that there's something wrong with me. And the biggest shadow is the fetish can become the only route for your turn on. So if you have a fetish that gets you every time, your body and your brain will start to wire in a way that that's the only way you can be turned on. So other things, it's hard to get turned on without that one thing. The final blueprint, the fifth and final erotic blueprint, erotic wiring, is the shapeshifter. A shapeshifter needs all 4 blueprints to be turned on. And I don't want you to confuse this with, ooh, I like a little bit of this, and I like a little bit of that, and a touch of that. That is not a shapeshifter. A shapeshifter actually needs all the sensations to be turned on. They are fluent in every blueprint. Some of the traits of this is that they can be extraordinary lovers because they are able to communicate with each and every blueprint. They're fluent. Think of a person that's fluent in 5 languages. That's the shapeshifter, fluent in all the sexual languages. So they can be a lot of fun. The shadow side of a shapeshifter, they can tend to feel like, I'm too much. I'm too much, I need it all. I'll never be satisfied. They can be easily bored because it's just never enough. There's not enough sensation, there's not enough going on. And a lot of shapeshifters can tend to lack a sense of self-identity sexually because they shift to take on their partner's identity without even knowing it, because they're so fluent in the languages. It'd be like, think again, if you knew 5 languages, but you were dating somebody who only knew French. So you just automatically are always speaking in French to communicate with your partner, with your lover. But all those other 4 languages you know are just kind of being stowed away on the shelf collecting dust. So shapeshifter needs it all. So those are the 5, you guys. Energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky with the subcategories of sensation and psychological, and shapeshifter. We all have a primary wiring. A primary blueprint. When you understand this about yourself, clouds part, There's nothing wrong with you. So I don't know what we're at for time. Katie, if you could let me know. Couple minutes. Because I would love to open it up. I would, if we can, have more kind of Q&A, because I want to help.